Hi, welcome back. And today we're going to make spaghetti and meatballs. One of my favorites, actually. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make the sauce. I'll put on the glove later for when I do work on the meat part, so I have put in a little over 3 cans of just tomato sauce. I had a little bit left over of some red sauce that I had made, Italian red sauce, from the other night. So I don't have to go ahead and, I didn't have to open up another can. So probably like 3 1/4 cans. I'm going to get out my spoon. I'm going to mix that up. Some of that already had spices in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some oregano. And I'm going to add, now what you might want to do is, if you add oregano, then, or whatever spice, you then put it on the other side. You don't want to accidentally add too much of one spice. So if you're in a hurry like I am tonight, I'm going to try to keep myself organized so I don't mess up. Very busy. We've had a very busy day today. We actually smoked some sausage earlier. You can watch in another video. Italian seasoning. And I'm going to do garlic powder. And I'm going to also, while we're on the subject of garlic, I have some minced garlic. Since I am in a hurry tonight, I'm not going to use the garlic 100% from scratch. So I have the jarred minced garlic, and I'm going to put some in here. I'm going to use a generous amount because making meat, I want the meatball to, the garlic and everything to blend. So, and then I'm going to do some onion powder. And now, so that's it for this. And now I can get this on the oven. On the stove top. Like I said, it's been a hectic day today, so going in between a bunch of different things. Okay. Last ingredient, before I forget, is I'm going to add just a little bit of sugar to this. I'm going to use about a tablespoon of sugar in here. Now, you don't necessarily have to use sugar. Sometimes if I had grape jelly, I would put in grape jelly. If I had some red wine, I'd do red wine. But something that has a sugar base. We also have done in the past where we'll put a little bit of whole milk in here. We do that sometimes too. But tonight I'm just going to do it this way. Because sometimes it's tricky if you put dairy in your sauce, because the dairy sometimes wants to curdle. So I just want to make sure that this comes out really good. So I am going to skip doing the dairy tonight. So I'm going to put this on the stove right now on medium, or medium to low, just so that it just slowly simmers while we're working. So I have actually ground elk. That's the meat I'm using, but you could use beef for sure. I have a couple eggs. I'm going to add a couple of eggs. I'm not quite sure exactly how much meat I have here. I'm guessing it's about 1.5 pounds is what my guess is. I did not weigh it. So I'm going to use 2 eggs. And then I'm going to start adding all the spices, and then I'll add the breadcrumbs. So again, we're going to do exactly the same spices that I did earlier in the sauce. So I'm going to use some basil. Now the best way to do this recipe, if you have fresh basil, is to dice up the basil and add it in here, and then all the other spices I'm doing. But I did not have fresh basil, so I'm not going to do that tonight. Did a little bit of garlic, some Italian seasoning, a little bit of black pepper, oregano. Now the Italian seasoning does have some of these seasonings, but I just like more of certain seasonings. So just as a reference, the Italian seasoning has marjoram, it's called, basil, rosemary, thyme, oregano, savory, and sage. So I like to add extra oregano and extra basil. So just in case somebody said, oh, well, that already has it. So for some people, you might not need to get the other spices because I just like the extra, so. And then I have some minced garlic from earlier. And there's actually some juice at the bottom of this, which I think is going to actually make it taste better. So I'm going to put a bunch of garlic in here with the juice, which is usually only at the end of the bottle. So it's kind of good timing if I'm going to do. I'm not using fresh garlic. This is the next best thing. Okay, so now I got all my spices, and I'm going to add breadcrumbs. Now, I use Italian breadcrumbs. If you can't find Italian breadcrumbs and you just find plain breadcrumbs, if you want a lot of spice, you might want to add even more spices than I already did. So, I'm going to add Italian breadcrumbs. And I might actually need more. I always buy 2 of everything because if you run out, then you can just add a little bit more. We don't want the meatballs to be dry, but also we want it to be able to all stick together. Oh, another thing before I get further and get my hands dirty. So this is elk meat. Elk meat is extremely lean. So I'm going to put just the smallest amount of oil at the bottom of the pan. I'm going to use just a tad of olive oil. Because if you get beef from the store, more than likely, even if you get the lean stuff, you'll have plenty of fat. I don't want the meatballs to stick. So I'm going to get some oil. I'm just going to put a little bit of olive oil down. Take my glove, which is going to get messy anyway in a minute, and make sure it's all over. I've preheated my oven to 350, and this is probably going to take about an hour for the meatballs to cook. But I'll keep on checking it, and we'll look inside the oven together and see the progress I'm making. So, if you have someone home, it's always a good idea when making meatballs, because what happens to me, like I can tell already, I'm going to need more breadcrumbs. So you can ask the person to add some breadcrumbs for you. Just make sure, the important thing is that you're really mixing all the meat up really well. And then in a minute I will see if I need more breadcrumbs, and I know I'm going to though, for sure. So I like to use gloves for multiple reasons. I don't like the meat under my fingernails. My hands are very dry, so they're cracked. So it's the winter. A lot of cooking and cleaning and having to wash my hands a lot. Also, I babysit, so I wash my hands a lot. Babysit for my granddaughter. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit. Now, you don't want to add too much, so I'm going to just slowly take the glove off. Take my hand and add a little bit more breadcrumbs. Sometimes you just have to do a little bit at a time because you don't know. It depends how moist the meat is. This meat seems to be on the moist side. So, I'll keep on mixing. I'm getting very close. So it's kind of like regular bread dough. So when it's not sticking to the side, you know you're getting close to the consistency you want. It doesn't hold, but it certainly does not hurt to over mix it when you're making meatballs, because you really want everything very well blended. Hope everybody's having a good day. As I said earlier, my day's been very hectic, and then I decided to make this, but it is one of my favorite meals. So at the end of the day, there'll be a good meal. So that's good. Okay, so the other important thing when you make the meatballs, and I struggle with this myself, some people actually use an ice cream scooper, or even a scooper that you would make cookies, because what you want to try to do, first of all, I'm really compacting this meatball so that it stays together. You need to try to make each meatball similar in size because that way they'll cook at the same rate of speed. So if you went ahead and said, oh, I think for my granddaughter I'm going to make a little meatball, that little meatball is going to get done before the big meatballs, unless you use a different pan completely and it just doesn't take as long. I like to make big meatballs, not huge. My hands are small, so this is maybe a little bit bigger than a golf ball is what I'm guessing. For me to make a littler meatball, and it's all up to an individual preference. Some people like little meatballs, or some people like them bigger than I like them. But for me, this is an easier one to just form in my particular hand. So maybe some people, it'd be easier for them to make a smaller one. So like this one's almost too small. I'm going to add a little bit of meat. So this elk meat, my son and my husband went elk hunting, and my son got an elk. And if you know anything about elk hunting, when you go out with a group, anybody that gets an elk, it's a huge accomplishment. It is not easy. I am going to go run over to the range top because I hear my sauce is starting to boil and I don't want it to boil. Okay, I'm back. I turned the heat down. It's kind of hard sometimes when you are the only one in the kitchen doing something, when all of a sudden you're having an issue with something. Okay, so we went ahead and grinded a lot of the elk meat, the stuff that was not steaks and it wasn't roasts, and we're not sure what to do with it, so we grinded it up. Sometimes I keep some meat to make shredded meat, which is really good also. So a lot of the recipes going forward, I'm going to do elk meat. But the thing about elk meat is you can go ahead and do the exact same recipe whether you had deer meat or whether you had beef. So the only thing I do, I don't really do anything different when I elk meat versus beef. Some people do, I don't. I just, whatever I would cook with beef, I cook with elk. It all depends on the cut of the meat, depending what you're wanting to make. So, but this is red meat, and it's the most organic you can get. Okay, I'm going to keep on going, and I will see you back. Okay, so I have 19 meatballs, and you can put them fairly close because what's going to happen is the meatballs are going to shrink. All right, so I'm going to pop this in the oven, and I'll check it along the way. I'm probably going to set a timer for about 20-30 minutes, and I'm actually going to take a spoon and turn them over so they cook very evenly, and we will check in through the process. See how everything's going. The first thing I'm going to do, it's been about 30 minutes. It takes a while for the water to boil. So I'm going to boil some water for the pasta. And I'm going to add, oops, okay. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of salt. My salt. Sometimes that helps the water boil. And then I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil so the pasta does not stick. And then I'm going to check on my sauce. I'm over here, and this, remember, this has been going for like 30 minutes. So I just only used tomato sauce, but as it cooks, it thickens like tomato paste. So it is definitely thickening up. That's looking good. And then let's go over to the oven and see how our meatballs are coming along. And I'm going to grab a spoon because I'm probably more than likely going to turn the meatballs. So let's take a look. I'm going to turn these and pull this out. turn these meatballs over with just a spoon so that they get done evenly on each side. And then I'm going to set another timer for about 30 minutes. Okay, so the water is at a rolling boil, and I'm going to put in the pasta. Now, I like this sort of pasta. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it, but I'm just calling it spaghetti, but it's the thick spaghetti with the hole in the middle. That's what I know it as. Okay, so you don't want to ever put the pasta in cold water and then start boiling it. You always want it to go with a rolling boil. And I'm going to take part of this, because this would be really long if you're trying to eat it. And I'm going to break it in half. You don't have to break it in half, but that's just how I do it. If you like long pieces, that's fine too. My daughter one time bought some spaghetti that was, I think, from Italy, and it was like super long, but we could never find it again after the store stopped carrying it. I wish I could find it. It was like twice the length of this, and it was absolutely delicious. But this one's pretty darn good. Okay, so I'll do that. And then what you want to do when you're making pasta is occasionally stir it. So definitely want to occasionally stir the pasta so it doesn't stick. Okay, so I'll be occasionally stirring this pasta, and then I'm going to check on, whoops, something fell. I'm going to check on my sauce again, because it's always a good idea to keep an eye on stuff, make sure it's not burning to the bottom or anything like that. I'm stirring this, and then I will check in on the meatballs in just a little bit. Be back soon. Okay, so I'm going to check the meatballs because they seem, I kind of took a peek and they seem like they might be done. So I'm going to go ahead and take this, move the camera back. I'm going to take a very sharp knife, and I'm going to find my biggest meatball. And I'm going to cut it in half and see if it looks like it's done. Yes, it is done. There's no pink. So when you're dealing with ground meat, you don't want it pink at all. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put this into the sauce. So I'm going to do that right now. Okay, so the meatballs did not take as long as I thought they were going to take. So that's why I did peek in there, because I could smell, they smelled like they were done. So now I'm going to put the meatballs into the sauce. Now some people might want to have it separated. And I used to do that sometimes, but I kind of like it with the meatball saturated with the sauce. But you could do it either way. If certain people don't want a lot of sauce, they can go ahead and, you know, you can have your sauce separate, and then people can add the amount of sauce they want. I like it this way. To me, the whole meatball ends up tasting moisture. So the good thing about this is I was able to clean up my kitchen while I was waiting for these meatballs to cook. In the meantime, I've made more dishes, but at least I got most of it cleaned up, so that's good. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put this back on the range top, and I'm going to wait for my pasta to cook. I'm going to make sure I get this all stirred in. I'm going to cover it, and I will see you soon. Okay, so now I'm going to test the noodle. I'm going to rinse it off so I don't burn my mouth. So I just took a tongs and took one out. So I always taste it. Okay, it is ready. So I'm going to drain the noodles. And I let it drain for a while, so make sure all the water is out. And I have the type of colander that goes over the sink, which is really nice because you don't have to worry about the sink water backing up into your pasta, because you wouldn't want to do that. By the way, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce this type of pasta, which I really love. So in the comment section below, if anybody wants to tell me how to pronounce it, that would be great. In just a few minutes, I will taste test the spaghetti and meatballs. Okay, so time to taste test the spaghetti and meatballs. And I'm going to go ahead and adjust the camera. Okay. Can't wait to taste this. Hopefully it's cooled down enough I don't burn my mouth. Cut. The meatballs are so big, I'm going to cut the meatball. And I'm going to try to get some meat and some pasta together to do and some sauce. And it's steaming hot. I actually like my food pretty hot, but I don't want to burn my mouth either. So I've been looking forward to this all day. So let me go ahead and... Oh, came out very good. Meatballs are moist. Sauce is just right. I love these noodles that are not called spaghetti, but I'm going to call it spaghetti meatballs because I can't pronounce the name of that pasta. But you can do it with whatever type of pasta you like, and that's fine. You know, whatever your favorite pasta is. So, thank you for watching. Thank you for those of you who subscribe to my channel. It is free, so if you like the content, subscribe. And I hope you like my video, and have a great evening. Thank you for watching.